Okay. Hi. Hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to The Sinner and the Saint.
Margaret Jack? Margaret Jack? By 10 p.m., the good folks who call Mooresburg, Tennessee home have usually turned in for the night. But the events of May 18th, 2015 make this particular night unlike any other this tiny town has ever known.
I was all ready for bed, and we got a telephone call from a neighbor of hers saying that they couldn't find Margaret Jack.
For Bessie May and Dale Livesey, real panic doesn't set in until their search for Bessie May's elder niece comes up empty. And so we got out the kitchen door and they supposed on the corner. And we stood there talking, wondering what in the world, where could she be?
I knew that she was hurt really bad, or she was dead. I didn't know.
It was about 10:45 at night. I received a call from Central Dispatch to respond to Eisenberg Road. She's around back, but that's where I know. The first thing I noticed when I seen her was that she wasn't wearing any shoes. We are in the country. A lot of people don't wear shoes. The next thing I noticed that it looked like she had a cut or a laceration to her neck. Deputy Bird also notices Margaret Jack has two black eyes and what appears to be two bullet wounds in her head. Central, I believe we have a homicide here. Requesting backup. Within minutes, the modest county farm is transformed into the biggest crime scene anyone from Mooresburg can recall ever seeing.
When we get to the scene, there's already several officers there. They've checked off the scene. We noticed an elderly Caucasian female laying on the grass, but it appeared like she had just fell backwards. She was laying on her back. When we first looked at her, her eyes had been blackened out, and we thought that she possibly could have been strangled. Due to the nature of her injuries, that showed a lot of anger, in my opinion.
Something else is clear to Hawkins County detectives Ken Sturgill and Mark Bass. Margaret Jack's body was moved here after her assault took place.
It looked like somebody had grabbed the belt part of her pants and was using it to carry her where she was found. They had rolled the pants to hold on to her so they get a good grip on her pants, and they picked her up and carried her with her.
The detectives pick up on a trail of blood leading to the property's perimeter.
And I was noticing drops of blood coming all the way up to where the body was. It wasn't little drops of blood, it was splotches. It appeared that Miss Margaret Jack was working on her barbed wire fence there. There was some tools laying there, some wire cutters, some crimping tools, and her glasses were found laying next to the barbed wire that she was using.
Looks like she was ambushed right there.
I don't know anybody to get angry enough to do something like that to a 79-year-old woman. First person I spoke with was Bessie May Livesey, which is Margaret Jack's aunt. She was distraught.
The sheriff got me by the hands, and he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but your niece has been brutally murdered." And I just, that was just so hard, you know.
And this has been the most brutal murder that I've ever seen in my 30-something years in law enforcement. I'd like to kill my wife and me too. I couldn't. Just tore me out of pieces.
In many ways, 79-year-old Margaret Jack Slider was Mooresburg, Tennessee. She had lived in the small, isolated community her entire life.
Margaret Jack, her mother, her sister, they all taught school. So Margaret Jack was always teaching people, and but she just wanted the best for everybody and for everybody to do good. I can remember that, we would be out playing ball at our recess time. She would go out and play ball with us in the fourth grade. Let's play softball. And she loved us.
If you didn't know her as a young person, your mom or daddy or someone knew her. She had such a love in her heart for creation and people around her.
She was a sweet, young soul. She was very community-minded. She would help people without saying a word.
Always a model of Christian fellowship. Since the death of her husband 20 years ago, Margaret Jack has become known for her self-reliance, working the family farm alone, though sharing the fruits of her labor with others.
She would milk her cows, and she would distribute pretty much the entire community. Anyone who wanted like a half a gallon of this cow's milk, she would make it available to them.
She brought her milk to my mother's house, I believe, every day. And she did not just to my mother, but to so many people. I saw by it.
Her giving did not end there. She loved to play the organ, play the piano, never missed a Sunday for 40-something years. Now, the question troubling all of Hawkins County is, who could possibly be so angry with Mooresburg's most beloved resident?
We really didn't understand why somebody would do this to her. One of the first things when you investigate a homicide is try to figure out a motive, because her house was in order, pocketbook was there, her checkbook was there, so we knew it hadn't been a robbery.
If it isn't robbery, that seems to suggest that an even darker force has invaded the community.
Mind if we have a word with you folks?
We stayed up there a long time. They was questioning each one of us, I just couldn't figure it out to save my life. Why would anyone want to murder Margaret Jack when there was no better person than Margaret Jack?
Several of the family members had been looking for her because a neighbor had called and said he couldn't find her.
I'm sorry to have to ask these questions, but it's important that we figure out what happened here. Should you all be out trying to find who done this?
I directed my attention to a male who was a neighbor and started asking him what had happened.
I'm sorry, sir, but I do need to collect information.
He was the neighbor that lives directly across the road from Margaret Jack. When I initially talked with Mr. Watts, he said at about 5 o'clock or 5:30 that afternoon, he had walked Margaret Jack's mail up to her porch, as he pretty much does on a daily basis. He stated that he couldn't find Margaret Jack. He had hollered a time or two, and so he started looking over the property to see if he could locate Margaret Jack.
How long did you search? A while. I don't know.
What stands out about Mr. Watts right now is he couldn't find her when she was, right there behind the house. She was in plain view. If you went to the corner of the house, you could have saw her, especially in daylight.
And so when you couldn't find her, you called the Livesticks.
That's right.
What time was that?
About 10 o'clock.
Why'd you wait?
We thought she'd show up, but she didn't. We got word. It was a little off, and by that I don't know if it was shock or the reality of what was going on had hit him.
Whatever it is, it makes him a person of interest. But zeroing in on a suspect too soon could let the real killer get away.
I knew there was a monster somewhere in that community. Kind of made you sick at your stomach. Who could do something like this?
That's the question everyone in Mooresburg wants answered. But there is no way for anyone in town to prepare for the devastating truths Margaret Jack Sliger's murder case will ultimately reveal. Cradled by the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains, the 4-square-mile, 1,000-person community of Mooresburg, Tennessee, barely constitutes the title of small town.
Mooresburg doesn't have a traffic light or sidewalk. We do have our own post office, which we're mighty proud of.
Back when I was growing up, I could hear a vehicle go out the road. I knew who it belonged to without even looking, because I did know all my neighbors. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew everybody's children and grandchildren. And, you know, that's just the kind of community it is.
Though on the morning of May 19th, 2015, the happy hamlet of Mooresburg reels as news spreads of the savage murder of its longtime children's teacher and labor farmer, Margaret Jack Sliger.
It's like everybody's grandmother was brutally murdered, so you can imagine what people were going through.
It was just horrible. I mean, it's so hard to comprehend that could even happen to her, and I just sit and cry.
It devastated us. I left work that morning and went to visit some of the parishioners in their homes, and we just met each other at the door and hugged each other and cried and tried to make sense of it, but you can't make sense of it. Yet making sense of Margaret Jack's murder is exactly what detectives in Hawkins County Sheriff's Department must do.
Our investigation was to try to find out if the killer was there, passing through, or somebody that knew her.
On the first full day working the case, Hawkins County detectives make a point to speak once again with Richard Watts, the very man to first report Margaret Jack missing.
Mr. Ross, well, this Barbara, you telling us how you knew Margaret Jack?
I lived across the street from her. I was her neighbor. He characterized their relationship as just a friend, as neighbors. She would help him if he needed it. He would help her with her mail, and if needed, to help milk cows or anything that she might have needed on a farm.
The relationship sounds unremarkable, but familiarity is known to breed contempt.
What brought you to her farm yesterday? Did she ask for your help?
I take her mail every day.
He said that he hadn't seen Miss Margaret Jack, so he went over to speak with her, because she's out walking around. On this day, he hadn't seen her at all.
About what time did you head over there to look for her?
4 o'clock.
You sure?
Yeah. First interview, he stated 5:30. The second interview, he was stating 4:30. He was trying to change his timeline by an hour either way.
This isn't the only fact Watts is changing.
She's under the bush. Her legs are sticking out, bent and twisted.
And you're sure about that?
Yeah, never forget it.
He said that her legs were in different positions than they were. He described the scene that was not conducive to what we'd found when we were there.
Mr. Watts, we'd like to get a DNA sample from you.
Detectives are needed out front. Call came in that a home invasion was occurring just down the road, and it had the same kind of characteristics. What we thought might have happened to Miss Sliger, somebody's breaking in on an elderly lady.
Myself and Mark Bass jumped in our car and went down to assist.
On the way to the apartments, word comes in that the suspects are thought to be fleeing the scene in a gray truck.
Within seconds, I noticed the truck coming over the hill. I had no choice but to stand in the middle of that lane and order them to stop the truck. I pointed my firearm at him and screamed, "Stop!"
Put your hands where we can see them. Slowly reach down and open the door from the outside.
There's 2 males and 2 females in the truck when it was stopped.
One of the individuals turns out to be a local criminal named David Bryant.
Mr. David Bryant is well known in Hawkins County and throughout Rogersville as heavy into drugs, either dealing it or using it.
We arrested all the people in the vehicle. We brought them back to the office, started interviewing them based on the MO being the same as Miss Slager, said maybe they'd been involved in the murders as well.
I'm hoping that one of these people is either the suspect or they can lead us to a suspect.
In the interrogation room, ringleader David Bryant denies having anything to do with the burglary.
Can you explain to us why you're trying to run from the police?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He was very angry when he was arrested. He tried to deny all the way around that he had anything to do with the home invasion.
Police then inform Bryant they have questions that go beyond simple B&E charges.
We're investigating the murder of Margaret Jack Slager, and you look pretty good to us right now.
After we had mentioned we were investigating a homicide, his demeanor changed.
He started to say, "Well, I did go over there and try to break in there, but I had nothing to do with the other thing."
I'm not a murderer. I just need some pills.
Where were you the night before last?
Up in the woods with my girl.
We were partying all night and they ran out of drugs. He decided to go down and break into the old lady's house.
Despite his initial resistance, Bryant passes a polygraph test and provides a DNA sample. He's arrested for the home invasion, but drops down a notch on the short list of suspects in the murder of Margaret Jack. Richard Watts, Margaret Jack's neighbor, also submits to a polygraph exam, the results of which are inconclusive. But to further prove his innocence, he willingly provides a DNA sample should investigators need it.
We were hoping it would lead us to somebody that had committed this heinous crime.
At this point, I'm thinking, what stone have I not unturned? Who have I not spoken to concerning this? And it got frustrating because I knew the community wanted answers. I wanted answers for Margaret Jack's family. I wanted this solved.
Day 2 brings new light to the investigation with the release of Margaret Jack's autopsy results.
DNA was located on Mrs. Slager's inside waist pants, where we suspect that she was picked up and carried. That DNA would have been touch DNA, where skin cells off your fingers come off onto the garment.
Could this sample match suspects Watts and Bryant? While investigators wait on that answer, the medical examiner's report does reveal a few chillingly clear facts.
They confirmed that they shot her once while she was at the fence, and then drug her to the back of the house. At that point, she was still alive, tried to slice her throat. That didn't work, so they again shot her again to finish her.
And as for the mystery of Margaret Jack's black eyes,
when a gun is fired at close range to a human head, the gases force your eyes out, so it causes bruising around the eyes. It would appear that somebody might have punched you in the eye.
but not all the coroner's discoveries are helpful.
The bullets they found inside Miss Slager, they were very fragmented, so making a ballistic match to them wasn't a possibility.
We couldn't get any lanyard group marks, any markings of what kind of gun it was. We knew it was a small caliber, and that's about all we knew, maybe a 25 caliber or 22.
Though these grisly details of the murder remain under wraps, there are plenty of rumors spreading across Mooresburg as fear and suspicion consume the tiny town.
When something happens, there's all kinds of speculations, you know. We thought maybe it was just a stray, somebody that maybe wandered in somewhere or something and, you know, and was going to try to rob her. But she wasn't robbed. Why did they kill her?
That's what everybody said. It's got to be a drifter. It was wishful thinking also, because people didn't want to think that there'd be somebody like that in their community.
For the first week, it's pretty overwhelming at the number of tips that came in from the Mooresburg community about the possible suspects.
We had just tons of tips coming through, mainly rumors.
The one really piques investigators' interest.
We had one tip that Margaret Jack had a person that worked on her farm. His name was Carl Sanders.
We got some information that Carl Sanders was going to be willed Mrs. Sliger's property, which really brought a red flag to us.
As a beloved teacher, stoic farmer, spirited church organist, and community gift giver, it's almost impossible to imagine anyone who could embody Mooresburg, Tennessee more vividly than Margaret Jack Sliger.
It was a mystery that everybody was trying to solve, but nobody couldn't come up with, with what a motive would be for somebody to go kill Margaret Jack.
People talked about it forever. We worried all the time about things after that, about everybody you looked at, who could you trust?
On the evening of May 21st, 3 days after Margaret's murder, a memorial service is held, and just about the whole town is there.
This church was overflowing with people to come that evening to this service we had here at the church.
It was huge. They were all the way up and down the sides of the road.
Everybody in the community and all over knew Margaret Jack Sliger and knew what kind of person she was.
We had the detectives on our prayer list here at the church praying for them that they could find the person, praying for the person as well, and all the family.
As it turns out, one person is suspiciously missing from the service. Someone police learn was very close to Margaret Jack.
She had a farmhand that worked for her sometimes, and his name was Carl Sanders.
Mr. Sanders was due to inherit the farm belonging to Margaret Jack Sliger.
Since it wasn't a robbery, maybe Sanders was trying to steal the farm itself.
Mr. Sanders, Hawkins County Sheriff's Department, please answer the door. Yes? Mr. Sanders, we're with Hawkins County Sheriff's Department.
We started talking to him, and he was very reluctant to talk to us at all. We wanted to shut the conversation down altogether.
It's normal in that community. They won't let you in unless you're invited or they know you. If he was our guy, I didn't want to scare him off by being too rough on him.
How often did you work for Margaret Jack?
Every now and then when she needs some help.
We then asked him if he knew anything about anybody wanting to hurt Margaret Jack or he knew anybody that had any ill feelings towards her.
The question sparks a possible clue from Sanders.
At that time, he started talking to us and telling us that there was a boy that had come to the farm several times, and his name was Kyle Wolf.
He'd been coming around here a lot more lately.
Kyle Wolf was very upset because she wouldn't let him ride his four-wheeler on her property anymore.
It's not so much being destructive, it's trespassing. A lot of the farmers back there at that time are either planting or starting to plant, so their fields are plowed. So anybody riding four-wheelers, horses, anything on their property without permission is trespassing, and the farmers don't like that.
Which begs the question, is Sanders pointing the finger at the teenager because he has his own bone to pick with a neighbor? Or perhaps for an even more sinister reason?
Mr. Sanders, would you be willing to come in and give us a DNA sample?
I've never hurt Margaret Jack.
That's why we want to clear your name.
I'm sorry, no.
After talking with Mr. Sanders, I still wanted more definite confirmation, so we made the determination we need to talk to Kyle Wolf.
What do you want? This is private property.
We're at the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office. Put down your weapon. We're not here for trouble.
When we get a situation like this, we automatically try to put them on lockdown.
As Detective Sturgill and Bass explained, they've come to talk to Kyle Wolf. The situation doesn't get any less tense.
with Paul. What you want, Kyle? Start back inside the way.
We just want to ask him some questions about Margaret Jack. Kyle Wolf was a small 14-year-old boy. He was probably 110, 15 pounds, about 5'5" tall. I understand you've been over to Margaret Jack's property a few times.
Kyle Wolf stated that he had indeed been on riding his four-wheeler the day prior.
You two ever talk about that?
She yells at me sometimes. Sometimes I go back. She ain't got no crop sweater, right?
Tell me about your day on Monday.
I was out riding horses all morning. Probably came back to eat something, and then I went out hunting.
Mr. Wolf during the daytime was basically just riding horses, going out and taking his rifle to the backyard and shooting whatever he could shoot.
What were you hunting? Coyotes. Did you get any? No.
He was out hunting on property that was adjacent to Margaret Jack's property. And that afternoon he was actually shooting at a coyote, which during the day coyotes aren't out.
We asked him how he knew Miss Flagger and about the incident with the four-wheeler, which he said that there wasn't an incident.
Did you see Margaret Jack at all the day she was killed?
All right, that's enough questions. You fellas must be moving on.
Look, there's an easy way to clear this up.
After the interview, we explained to him we would like a sample of his DNA, at which point his parents declined having Kyle give us any DNA.
If you change your mind, you let us know.
We ain't changing our minds.
Yeah, they were typical parents. They were all distraught that he was being singled out as a 14-year-old boy for killing a lady.
Back at the station, detectives reviewed the day's efforts. Without any grounds for a warrant, there is frustratingly little that can be done to address the refusals of both Carl and Kyle to provide DNA. So they turn their attention to finding exactly what Margaret Jack's will says.
Hey, she's not at a state attorney yet.
But as the search continues, investigators indulge their own reservations about Kyle Wolf as a suspect.
Based on his physical characteristics, his weight and things, we couldn't think that he could have carried Mrs. Flagger all the way to the back of her house.
I had some doubt that he was able to do this.
Just when the investigation is once again brought to a standstill, a tip comes in from someone who is as trusted a source as police could get.
We had received a tip stating that an individual was confessing to his priest that he was responsible for the murder in Mooresburg.
Over a week has passed since the much-adored retired schoolteacher Margaret Jack Sliger was found murdered in her backyard, the victim of a vicious attack that has the small community of Mooresburg, Tennessee on high alert.
Women in town were locking their doors where they hadn't locked them previously. There were women in town literally putting the shotgun behind the door right after the crime.
I just wondered if they would ever be caught. And I was worried also that he might come after us. You know, you never know.
My daughters and myself, we did go get gun permits and guns because of what happened to her. It makes you realize that no matter where you're at, these things can happen.
The community wanted answers. We wanted answers. There was times I laid awake at night wondering, what more can I do? Where can I look?
We were under tremendous pressure to get it solved. I mean, this was a very good lady that somebody had just went down and just, pretty much tortured and killed.
Detectives Sturgill and Bass hope their newest tip will blow the case wide open. A man reportedly confessed to the murder to his priest.
It was an anonymous tip. From what we understand, the caller stated that they were in church together and that they had overheard Mr. Stanton speaking to the priest, so they felt compelled to call.
Father, we received a tip
that one of your parishioners may have spoken to you about the death of Margaret Jack Slager. I was afraid that someone overheard that. Can you confirm the name of the parishioner for me? Yes. His name is Bobby Stanton. But I really don't believe he had anything to do with it.
Priest says that he found it a little odd, but he knows for a fact that Mr. Stanton is usually at home with his parents and they don't let him out of sight.
It's probably best that I put you in touch with his parents.
We located him at his mother's house. We found that he was not mentally sound. He was an older fellow, about 20 or 30, but had the mind of a 9 or 10-year-old.
As detectives attempt to confirm Bobby's mother's claim that she was with him at home when the murder took place, people across Hawkins County rally together to build a reward fund.
We, as a community, decided if we could get together a fair amount of money to offer a reward, that perhaps that might help someone to come forward and maybe give out a detail that might be able to break the case.
Everybody just kept pouring in money for a reward to find the killer. That's all anybody could do, money.
New at 11 WATD 6 on your side. Both with Margaret Slager's family.
Family and friends are offered close to $4,000 they collected from the community to catch this killer.
Well, I'm just hoping now that they're going to find who did this. You know, it won't bring her back, but it will give some closure to it.
The reward money stirs up an abundance of tips. Among hundreds of calls coming in, one name stands out.
We started getting tips on Mr. Danny Page. Mr. Danny Page is well known throughout the community and through the county as being heavy into drugs. The tips were stating that Danny was taking claim for the murder of Margaret Jack.
25 or 30 people called in on Danny Page saying he was the suspect.
The problem is, no one seems to know where Danny is. Despite working on a few open leads, the unrelenting pressure to solve the case has police redoubling their investigative efforts.
We started looking at everybody in the valley. We started going house to house and asking if they knew of anybody that may or may not have anything to do with the murder of Margaret Jack.
This new phase of canvassing results in an unlikely encounter.
There's a group of brothers out there known as the McMahon brothers. They're well known with the law enforcement community. They're a bunch of men that like to go in and break in houses and steal things and pawn things that they've stolen. Usually they're out the back door, out the window, and out through the mountain before we could even exit our car.
This time will be different.
We figured you'd be here to see us eventually.
On this particular day when we went up to interview the McMahon brothers, they met us on the porch. They were cordial. They actually talked to us, and they knew they had heard about the murder of Margaret Jack and wanted to know what they could do to help.
First thing you can do is tell us where you were on May 18th.
On vacation.
They were actually in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina during the time of the murder. We confirmed that through they showed us their tickets. They showed us pictures. Pictures were timestamped. I can't dispute that.
Just as the McMahon brothers demonstrate the better side of their nature, word comes back from Margaret Jack's estate. She had willed her wealth and property to family and charity, meaning farmhand Carl Sanders stood to gain nothing from her death.
The third time we had talked to Mr. Sanders is when we talked to him about the will. And he said that he did not want the property, even if it was willed to him, that he wouldn't even take it.
At this time, police also confirmed Bobby Stanton's alibi.
We located him at his mother's house, so we eliminated him through his family's testimony that he was there that day and he didn't leave the house.
And DNA results absolved two other early leads, neighbor Richard Watts and drug dealer David Bryant.
Well, at this point in the investigation, we're pretty much at a dead end.
Seemingly all suspects are disappearing from the Hawkins County Detectives list when the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation delivers them Danny Page.
He was finally located by a TBI agent and arrested and brought in to be interviewed.
He had traveled from Morristown up to here and was hanging out with some friends when he was located, and they were able to take him into custody at that time.
which means the killer could be closer to home than ever. It's been a tough month in Mooresburg, Tennessee, but now detectives have an ex-con allegedly claiming credit for Margaret Jack Slager's grisly murder behind bars.
Word on the street is you're telling anyone who listened that you killed Margaret Jack.
I don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't remember making those statements. He said it was strictly for street credit to instill fear or to push away any competition that may be in his area here in the county.
Besides, it couldn't be done. No? Why's that? I was in jail.
At the time of the murder, he was in the Hamlin County Jail, which is a county just west of us.
Once again, detectives leave a tantalizing interview empty-handed. For the people of Mooresburg, frustration and tumult over the unsolved murder of Margaret Jack has reached profound levels.
It was a roller coaster ride. We heard that there was arrest made, then we heard there wasn't. We continually prayed that justice would be served in this and find somebody that done this.
There was sadness and anger and just all kinds of feelings.
We felt like something needed to be done, and we just wanted to get put behind us. That part, find out who done it, put them where they belonged, and to go on.
It seemed like all movement in the community stopped. No one knew anything.
Yet sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. On July 20th, 2015, Detective Ken Sturgill gets word that someone in Hawkins County District Attorney's Office is trying to reach him.
Yeah, this Detective Sturgill. I have a message to get in touch with you guys.
Sturgill is advised there's a new development regarding Kyle Wolf, the 14-year-old hunter who likes to four-wheel on Margaret Jack's property. And legally, this could lead to police obtaining a DNA sample from the recalcitrant youth.
Child Protective Services was investigating Kyle Wolf for an alleged sexual assault on his 8-year-old sister.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, District Attorney's Office then obtained a search warrant through TBI to get Kyle Wolf's DNA.
With no murder weapon, witness, or motive to cross-check any of their leads, police are leaning heavily on DNA to eliminate suspects. Though their interest in the teenager for their murder is low, this can bring all curiosity to an end.
We were just kind of in a holding pattern until we could see what come back on the evidence we had submitted.
It seemed like it was an eternity. It got to the point to where all we could do is sit and wait for results from TBI. So it got frustrating.
Then, on November 3rd, 5.5 months after the murder, detectives received some unexpected news.
Kyle Wolf's DNA came back positive. It was a match for the DNA that was found on the body of Margaret Jack Slager. Immediately after getting the confirmation, we set forth to get an arrest warrant for Kyle Wolf.
We need to speak with Kyle and have an arrest warrant for him.
Arrest warrant for what?
I stated that he's under arrest for the murder of Margaret Jack Slager.
Kyle, you need to come with us.
How'd you know?
We got your DNA.
And his only question was, what's that? And I said, we'll explain it to you later. We'll explain what DNA is.
When he was brought to the station, he actually just acted like he didn't know what was going on, that he had done anything wrong.
Once at the sheriff's office, he immediately asked for an attorney, and that was the end of that.
As word of Kyle Wolf's arrest gets out, it's met with a mix of relief and horror.
2 policemen came to our door and said we found the one. We've got him. And that just, I was just so thankful. I grabbed one of them and I hugged him.
I was glad, but I found it really hard to believe that the person they arrested could be maybe guilty. It's not always a good closure because there's too many people involved. Too many people is hurt by what has happened. Just a lot of loss all the way around, really, you know.
Most 14-year-old boys would be collecting baseball cards or, you know, something like that. They wouldn't be out trying to murder someone.
As the gruesome details of Margaret Jack's murder are released, reporters descend on the small community to cover the trial.
Every TV truck from Knoxville to the Tri-Cities was there. All newspapers around the region as well: Morristown, Greenville, Rogersville, Kingsport.
Though Kyle Wolf never confesses to the crime, he does eventually make a deal with the state.
Kyle Wolf pled to second-degree murder, 25 years.
If he stays the full time, he'll only be like 40 or 41 when he gets out. That's young. So, I don't feel like that was punishment enough. I'm sorry.
A lot of people don't like to say, well, I have forgiven, got a forgiving heart. And I have forgiven that boy, but he's got to serve his time. He's got to take his punishment.
Many wonder what Kyle Wolf will be like when he returns back to Mooresburg after completing his sentence.
Unless something drastically changes with Kyle Wolf while he's in prison, if he progresses and grows up and gets away from his violent tendencies, he may be okay when he gets out. But if he doesn't change, then he will be a dangerous individual when he's released.
One thing is certain. The light and love Mooresburg knew through the grace and good works of Margaret Jack Sliger has yet to diminish.
You don't find many people that had the status that she had. That lady just worked and done, and she was a God-fearing person. She just wanted to help everybody. She just wanted to do what was good and do what was right. You just couldn't ask for a better person.
I miss her. I do. I drive by there occasionally, even now, and I look over there and I think about her.